Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors to order at this time. Please rise with me for the invocation and be with John Lesta.
Okay. How's that? Good evening, and again, thanks for who you are and all that you do. Let's pray. Gracious God, in these glorious days of spring, we thank you for the beauty of your creation and the change of season that we witness on a daily basis. God, may we never take the wonder of this miracle for granted. I also thank you on this night for each of these women and men gathered here tonight and their willingness to serve. God, continue to give them wisdom and discernment and hearts of servants as they go about their work. In these complicated and conflicted days, we continue to pray for our community, our county, our state, our nation, and especially the larger world. In these days of differing views and opinions and realities, give us a spirit of unity, unity that goes beyond our own special interests or insights. Give us all the maturity to see beyond our own personal opinions and freedoms and lead us to think more about the common good of all people. God, as you have brought Americans together in the past, we trust you to do it again and give us the will and the fortitude to be team players. These things we ask in your name, in your spirit, and in your truth. And let all the people together say, Amen. Thank you.
We'll use the electronic handheld units tonight, so register yourself, please, as present. Confirm and enter, and yes, and confirm.
Yes, and confirm.
Who are we waiting on? Bob Fiedler?
Paul?
I can't see that.
You're okay.
Bob?
You're good now.
Hit confirm, Bob.
On the bottom. Yeah, I just had to find it.
All supervisors pass at this time. Okay, roll call completed. We'll have public comment at this time, and we'll allow 2 minutes per speaker this evening. And the first slip I have would be from Teresa Johnson.
I am Teresa Johnson. I'm the chair for the town of St. Joseph. On your agenda tonight, on number 1 under business, is the approving of the resolution for the town of St. Joseph's zoning ordinance. I just want you to know that we've been working very hard on this for over the past 2 years. We've had 5 public hearings on this ordinance, and we feel that we're in a great place to go forward and move forward with this in our town. The townspeople are very excited about this, and I'm looking forward to you approving it tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker would be Carol Evans.
Here she comes. Right up to your home.
Hi, my name's Carol Ivance. I live in Hudson, and I know this is probably off the topic, but we've been talking about this for months now. So our federal government is broken, power hungry, and not interested in protecting our God-given rights, and they certainly aren't following the Constitution. And sadly, I feel like many of you are kind of on the same side as the federal government, and this mask ordinance is illegal. It's against the Constitution. The social distancing, and we know the virus counts and the death count, all that stuff are all lies or based on lies. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court got it right, but the fear mongering has done its damage, and it seems like mostly the county supervisors continue to leverage that. And, you know, that whole health meeting, I didn't hear anything there that sounded like the truth to me. Just that, oh, the numbers are going up. Yeah, based on the PCR tests, the number of people who test positive, which means nothing. How many people have died? The death rate has been the same for the last 5 years. So it's nonsense. So I'm just asking, were you elected to continue the agenda of the left and push it down our throats, or were you elected to listen to us? Because we don't feel heard at all, and we're really tired of it. We expect you to represent us. If you disagree, that's okay, but at the very least, please listen and respond. Don't just keep pushing the same rhetoric, the same lies. These masks are damaging our health, especially our children. We all need oxygen, and we don't get enough with the masks. I am a retired nurse and RN. I have hospital experience, over 30 years, and third world experience. And there are plenty of doctors and nurses and scientists who back me up on this, and most of them have lost their jobs or their reputation. They're not falling in line with the left's agenda. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Monica Alexander.
Good evening, everyone, the Board of County Supervisors. My name is Monica Alexander. I am a citizen in this community. I pay my taxes and I obey the law like everybody else is supposed to do. But my message is just very plain and clear tonight, is that I implore you as the County Board of Supervisors to really take to heart what we the people have to say, because you're here in the interest of all of us. And I just would appreciate if you would listen to we the people, because you give me 2 minutes to say what I want to say to everybody in this room. It only takes me less than a minute to pull the lever when I go to vote. So I just want to let you know that, and to be aware of that you work for us, you are elected, hopefully you are selected to really do the will of the people. And that's all I have to say tonight. I just wish you would listen to what we have to say. And then that would be great. And then you won't get all of the complaints that maybe that you write us off when we come up here to speak to you. Just listen to us like we are supposed to listen to you. You work for us, you speak for us. And I appreciate it if you would do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did anybody else wish to make public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comment at this time. Proceed on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to bring that forward?
I'll move,
Supervisor
sir.
Long. Supervisor Osnes, a second. Discussion.
There's no discussion.
No discussion on this at all? Okay, consent agenda?
No, unless an item is separated out,
Okay.
there's no discussion.
All right, so I guess we're ready to vote, and we'll do it electronically. Carries. Thank you. Next item then will be the presentations and recognitions. First item on there, Judge Needham, please address that, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. It's not on the agenda, but I thought I'd alert the board that we're having our kickoff meeting for CASA, which is, again, something we've been working on, next Wednesday at 8:30. It's an informational meeting where we hope to finally establish our board of directors and get that program up and running. And we're really targeting for this fall, so if any members of this body or you know of anyone else that might be interested, please reach out to Mike O'Keefe, and we will let you either appear by Zoom or if you again have folks you think might be good on that board. So that's just informational. I asked for an opportunity to address the board tonight and publicly thank Mike O'Keefe for his work as coordinator of the Community Justice Coordinating Council. We brought Mike out of his first retirement about 7 years ago after he had a very long and wonderful career with the Department of Corrections as a probation agent and supervisor. And we brought him out of retirement at a time when the CJCC was really still in its infancy. We had hired a director whose tenure with us was very short, I believe about 6 months. And we were still in that phase of growing and trying to get this program up and running. And we reached out to Mike, and I don't think without any hesitation he agreed to take on that responsibility. And as I described, he took us from infancy through terrible twos, through adolescence, puberty, and well into adulthood in that 7 years he's been with us. Mike has probably more experience as well as contacts in the justice system than anyone I know. When I took over as presiding judge about 2.5 years ago, I went down and talked to Mike and I said, you know, I'm a chairman who likes to simply go to meetings and chair the meetings, but I'm going to look to you to really take on this continued coordination of the council. And Mike said, well, you know, Judge, I was thinking of retiring. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to stay on and at least get me through a couple of years. And he did that. And it's not often someone defies the judge's order, but I did order him that he couldn't retire. But he's now defied that, and I won't hold him in contempt tonight. But I do want to recognize him. As I said, Mike has done yeoman service to the county and to the council, and he will be sorely missed. Apparently, Becky's also retired from her job as clerk at the municipal court in North Hudson, and so I'm sure she's got a honey-do list for Mike, as well as golf courses calling him someplace. And so I really would like to, at this time, recognize Mike for his work. Ken and I signed a certificate that simply says, in recognition and appreciation of valued and exceptional services rendered to the Community Justice Coordinating Council and to the citizens of St. Croix County as coordinator of the council, dated this 4th day of May 2021, and I'd like to thank Mike at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say when Judge Lindell called me out of retirement, he guaranteed me I'd only be here 6 months. And 7 years later, here I am. I think we've built a very good foundation with our CJCC. I know everybody's talking about justice reform. We're ready to take that next step, and I'm hoping that the person that replaces me is up to the task. But we are a civil group. We meet and we disagree on things, but it never gets out of line. It never has, and I don't think it ever will. So I'd just like to say thank you, especially to Cindy for putting up with me for IQM2, the IT department for fixing all of my stuff. I seem to break a lot of things, but I appreciate everything. This was my dream job. It's just time for me to go, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Well done. Next item then would be the COVID-19 summary and disease activity.
Thank you.
Ellie,
Give me
go
one
ahead.
moment as I- Yep. Thank you. Give me one moment here. Good evening. Thank you for having me again. My name is Ellie Clausen, and I am the epidemiologist for St. Croix County. Tonight, as mentioned, I'll be giving an update on the COVID-19 case activity and our vaccine efforts. So what we've been seeing in the county in terms of COVID-19 case activity, and what I mean by case activity is how many new cases are coming into the county. What we've been seeing, the graph ahead of you, is the year of 2021. In November, we had our highest peak. We had since, from about the mid-November, been trending downward until kind of the third week of March, when our case numbers started trending upward again. Where we stand now is at about 30. That 30 means that we are seeing an average, a 7-day average of 30 new cases a day into the county, which is a heavy caseload as we were adjusting our staff for the decrease in cases. And now with the additional caseload, we are still contacting every positive case by phone interview, as well as their close contacts, to give them the guidance in order to proceed with their isolation or quarantine due to exposure or a positive case. What that means in terms of case activity as we stand in a county in the entire state of Wisconsin, we are one of few counties that have very high case activity. As you can see from the map, it is us, Pierce, Polk, Sawyer, and another county. We initially, about 3.5 weeks back, 3 and 4, we were the only county with the high activity, the very high activity. Since then, it has spread into Pierce, Polk, and Burnett there, and as well Sawyer, you can see. What you see from the visual there is our trajectory hasn't changed. So what that means is we are staying steady at this very high case activity. This burden you're seeing, the 432.1, that's it's over a 2-week measured period. The DHS does give us that metric in order to judge our case activity. This is in a large part due to, if you've seen from CDC and from the state of Minnesota, that Minnesota is also experiencing very high COVID case activity at this time. Where are these cases and how has this changed? So if we're looking across 2021, January is in blue, so we can see kind of those very high cases. February, we dropped down, so we had a low number of cases across all age groups. In March, the case numbers did start to rise, and now we see April in yellow. And what we're seeing is a trend of, as vaccination has proceeded forward, we're getting less case activity in those higher age groups, where we're starting to see an unusual spike. This is a spike seen in Minnesota and in Michigan. We're seeing a spike in our young. We're seeing our spike, especially in the graphic there, you can see the spike in our 11 to 17-year-olds, as well as our 18 to 24-year-olds. So that has definitely, with vaccination, COVID is still going to attempt to find the most vulnerable individuals, and without vaccination, it has now shifted the cases into our younger population. What does this all mean? So with that very high case activity we are currently experienced, what you'll find on our St. Croix County dashboard is advisories and guidance on how to proceed to keep yourself, your loved ones, your neighbors safe. So there are public health recommendations in terms of gatherings, bars and restaurants, and then there's also those recommendations across any gathering, which is to wear a mask, physically distance, and wash hands. The other great piece to protecting yourself against COVID is vaccination. So an update to where we stand, we have achieved a milestone, which is great. We have seen in total residents vaccinated at least 1 dose. You'll find it on our dashboard. You'll find it on the DHS website, as well as we have released that information. At least one dose, we have achieved over 40% of our population. What you're seeing on the graph right now is those individuals that are fully vaccinated. And by fully vaccinated, meaning they've either received 2 doses of a 2-dose series or 1 dose of a 1-dose series vaccination. We are moving every day. These numbers are growing. And so we have about 30% of all residents are fully vaccinated. And of our 65 plus, it's great to see we are over 80% now, just barely, but we got it, are fully vaccinated. So that's really why we're seeing those lower case numbers fall in those higher age groups. One update, Public Health has already issued the recommendation for wearing masks, but there has been an update that's come out from CDC, and it's been adopted by the Department of Health Services for Wisconsin, that fully vaccinated individuals, what this means is you have those 2 doses and it's been greater than 2 weeks from your last dose in that 2-dose or 1-dose series. They do not need to mask outdoors. There is this exception that in crowded areas where there's a lot of individuals, masking is still recommended. Okay, so this is the end of the public health update in terms of our current COVID status and vaccination efforts. Thank you very much.
Questions?
And I am here to answer any questions.
Supervisor Long.
Yes, quick question for you. The vaccination numbers, does that include residents in the county that were vaccinated outside of the county? For example, I know of a lot of people that have been going to Eau Claire. Do those numbers include those people or not?
Those numbers do include those people. So Wisconsin has a great system called the Wisconsin Immunization Registry. And so any individual who is immunized, their information is, and the registry of that vaccination is entered into the Wisconsin Immunization Record, and we are able to access that data to give you these numbers. There are a couple of caveats there with even pharmacies are entering data. Not all pharmacies consistently are, but that data is in there as well. The only exception to the rule really is the VA system. They report to the federal government, and there are plans in the work to get their information into our Wisconsin Immunization Registry.
Other questions? Thank you, Holly.
Thank you very much.
Okay, then we'll move on to the County Administrator's report. Ken?
Thank you, Chair Peterson. We'll scroll down here. Give me just a minute. There's the numbers. There's the good stuff. All right, so we're a quarter of the way through the year. These numbers are reflective as of the end of March. So when we take a look at the numbers and we start comparing it to where we should be for the year, we're expecting 75% of the budget remaining. So when we're looking at our revenues on the administrative side, these are broken into the 5 standing committee subgroups. 76.94% of revenues remaining, so we're pretty much on target there. Community development at 77.84. Theirs is more park center. They have a lot of revenues coming from parks, so they're probably appropriately spaced where they're at. Health and Human Services is at 88%. A lot of theirs are grant funded though, which have a lag time from the time the expenses are incurred, submitted, and then reimbursed. So that would be typical of where we'd be at this point of year. And then the last one was transportation and public protection, both at 78 and 77%. So overall, we're at 80% remaining for revenues to be collected for the year. At 75% expected, we're not very far off from that. On the expense side then, when we look through the expenses, we'd expect 75% of expenses remaining also. Administration's at 63.9%. But debt service comes out of that, and the debt service payments, the principal payments are all paid at the beginning of the year. All we have left at the end of the year is some interest, so it's heavily weighted towards the front. So that explains that deviation from where we would expect to be. The other departments, 84% for community development, so there's still under budget where we'd expect to be for the year, 83%, 93% for transportation. They're heavily construction weighted, so as of the end of March, they hadn't started their construction season yet. Don't worry, Robbie will spend it all. And then public protection, they're at 80%. So all of the departments, really, when we look through that, are on target for where they should be at this time of year. And if we look at prior year comparison, at this point on the prior year, it's this negative 2.5 million is where we were last year at the end of March, and we're at negative 1.3 million. So we're about $1 million better off, really, where we were 1 year ago as a comparison. So relatively close out of a $100 million budget, within 1% of where we were prior. So are there any specific questions on the financial reports? Otherwise, that's my summary for this evening.
Apparently none.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, we'll proceed on to the business items, and then the first one would be the resolution, St. Croix County Board of Supervisors approving the Town of St. Joseph zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to bring that forward? Supervisor Hanson? Do we have a second? Supervisor Osnes? Discussion.
Supervisor Hanson.
Supervisor Hanson, did you want to address?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. This has been a long time coming, and it represents a great deal of work on the parts of our staff in the Community Development Department, as well as on the part of mostly the people who have been elected to the Town Board of St. Joseph. And there were items that needed to be massaged and worked out over time, so it took a little bit more time to come to fruition. But with the help of our Corporation Council and their Corporation Council, all of those things have been worked out, and it's been pretty thoroughly reviewed by the members of our committee. We felt very comfortable approving it today. So thanks, and if anybody has any specific questions, we can find answers for you.
No further questions, apparently. Comments? So I guess we're ready to vote at this time. And it carries. And the next one then would be the amendment to Chapter 79, all-terrain and utility terrain vehicle route ordinance. Do I have a motion for that? Supervisor Peavy, second. Second by Supervisor Osnes. In discussion, Bill?
Yeah, just a few comments. So this is a statute. Anytime we change the ATV, UTV routes, they get reviewed by both the Highway Committee and the Sheriff's Department. Safety concerns are addressed or looked at: speed, pavement, width of the highway, traffic volumes and types, crash history on a section of road, bridges, school zones, traffic complaint history. And then, since these are routes or any alternate routes available, so we try to direct people on town roads. And again, is this a connection? So for 2020, well, I can go back a little history. 2019, we had 18 applicants and approved 3. 2020, we had 9 and approved none. And 2021, we received 2 applications, and those were both recommended to approval. And it take me forever to get to the screen, but they're due short routes. So I recommend approval. It came from the committee, and the Sheriff's Department approves. Just for your information, we have 3 additional routes that have applied for 2021, but they have not been reviewed by the Sheriff's Department and the Transportation Committee. So they'll probably be coming back much later in the year. So it is an ordinance. It sounds by state statute. So I recommend approval.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, I guess we're ready to vote. So, Cindy? Okay, carries unanimous. Thank you. Next one would be a resolution renewing the lease agreement with St. Croix County Fair Incorporated. I have a motion for that. Supervisor Long.
Approve.
Second by Supervisor Ard. Thank you. Discussion. Supervisor Long, do you want to address it now?
I'm not the expert to review that, so I'll turn that over to Corporation Counsel.
All right, so this is a 5-year renewal of a lease that the county's had a number of renewals. The basic scheme of the lease is that the county leases the property to the Fair Board. The Fair Board has the right to construct buildings with the approval of the county administrator. The only difference in this lease as opposed to previous leases is that it contemplates the construction of a safe room, which this board approved funding, I think approximately a year and a half ago, and the city of Glenwood City is going to be constructing that because of the availability of more grant funds to the city as opposed to the county. So the lease just incorporates that and contemplates the construction with the Fair Board maintaining the safe room once it is constructed, as long as they are the lessee under the lease.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, I guess we're ready to vote. Supervisor Ard, your second, please. We'll vote. Carries unanimous. Thank you. Next will be the resolution approving updated personnel policies. I have a motion for that.
I'll move to approve.
Supervisor
Chair.
Long,
Second.
second by Supervisor Ard. Discussion. Supervisor Long, did you want to, or Ken?
I guess I'll turn that over to County Administrator to review.
Thank you, Supervisor Long. The current batch of policies that you can see on the screen: overtime, additional forms of compensation, direct deposit, personal data, compensation classification, recruitment, nepotism, and tobacco-free workplace. So we're continuing the process of going through all of the personnel policies, updating them in batches, and bringing them before you. We do go into all of the minute details at the administration committee and vet through any of the issues they may have. But as a whole, this group is fairly consistent with the past policy that we had. It's really just updating it for clarification of any sections that might have been missing before, or some of these were additional policies, practices that we were doing, but maybe not a written policy that we had, so they've been added in that situation. If there's any questions specifically, though, on any of the data that you've reviewed when you've taken a look at it, we do have HR staff available online to answer those questions.
Questions or comments? Supervisor Leaf.
Yeah, I had a question on the overtime of exempt employees, and I think I read in there that it would require the approval of a supervisor. Their direct report, it would be one of their direct reports. So is that normal? I mean, it could be, we could pit an employee against each other if a manager favors one over the other, or is this, I just worry about legality of that.
Sure. Do you want to tackle the legality of it, or turn it over to HR?
Legality, it's not required to pay an exempt employee overtime. The employer can do so if it chooses to. So from strictly the legal point, I would hope the application would be consistent throughout the county. But it is legal to pay somebody more than you're required to pay them under FLSA.
So is it typical for it to not require approval of the county administrator or someone other than their supervisor up the chain?
Well, it's not typical to pay exempt employees overtime, period. So that's my answer of whether it's legal or not is an entirely different issue.
And this is Ashley Knoll. I'm a HR advisor, and we did just add that as an exception. I guess I would have to look a little deeper if that's necessarily common. Like Scott said, legally we don't need to pay overtime to exempt employees. I think we added it in there as more of an employee exception if an employee was going above and beyond as an exempt worker, and we wanted to recognize that for them.
Further questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote at this time. Unanimous. Thank you. Next would be the resolution establishing 2022 budget priorities. Do I have motion?
I'll move to approve.
Supervisor Ard. Discussion, Bob, or Supervisor Long, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a few comments if I may, and I know the resolution was approved by the Administration Committee, but since then I had a lot of other thoughts, and I came to some different conclusions, so I'd like to kind of bring the issue up with my apologies to the committee members and all the board, because this really should be hashed out at the committee level, but I have to kind of follow my own conscience on this. The first thing I really want to do is acknowledge Supervisor Ard, who gave a very, very compelling case for the importance of supporting our employees, making sure that they're appropriately paid, the benefits, their work environment, and clearly that leads to lower turnover and, in theory, better service to our citizens. That's not my issue. I totally agree with you, and you were very eloquent, so thank you for that. My issue is when I look at the resolution and the priorities and based on the matrix, which I love the matrix, by the way. I think County Administrator did a great job of laying that out for us, so it was very clear. But what I see is, first of all, the first priority is what we're doing is trying to maintain status quo of the health insurance and also provide additional compensation for our employees. And then after that, what we're doing is looking at a few of the other things that we discussed from the committee of the whole. For example, child support position or an HHS children's services position, additional water testing resources. The sheriff had requested patrol deputies for public safety. So what I kind of came to the conclusion that what we're really doing is putting employee needs first rather than our citizen needs. And I don't want to minimize the importance, again, of supporting our employees, because I do believe that's really critical. But I really believe that the critical services that we deliver to our citizens should take precedent from a budget standpoint over our employee needs. So, because that's kind of why we're here, isn't it? I mean, we're here, the county government exists to serve our citizens. So I believe that really should come first from a budget priority standpoint to make sure we're meeting those critical needs. So I'd be happy to make a motion to adjust the priorities, but I'd like to ask a question first. Basically, my question to all of you is, what should really take precedent when it comes to budget priorities? Should it be citizen needs or employee needs? Again, and it's a very simple question, but it's a very complicated answer, I understand that, and it's very interrelated. But I'd like to know what you think as to what should take precedent, with all due respect.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yeah, I'm anxious to talk because I've given a great deal of thought to this. So as you know, my wife worked for St. Croix County for 20 years. And my son works for Fairfax County, Virginia. My daughter works for Washington County, Minnesota. My wife works for Dunn County in Wisconsin. And I'm elected to St. Croix County. So I have a unique perspective here. We are in a really hard labor market right now. And our citizens expect excellent quality service. We need to retain excellent quality employees. And right now, if you talk to our department heads, they'll tell you that when they go to interview people, they're doing sometimes 2 or 3 rounds of interviews because they can't find qualified candidates. And you and I were on one hiring committee where we only had one qualified candidate, if you recall. We have an environment where offering excellent employee benefits, and we don't offer, when you look at a market survey, and we've done market surveys, we haven't done it for a while, but we're not the highest paying county, but we do have excellent benefits, and it is the thing that St. Croix County has going for it. When you look at other counties surrounding us, we have good benefits, and it's a reason that our employees stay here. If we dilute the benefits, and I honest to God, I've thought about this and sometimes wondered if maybe we should take a hard look at cutting back on this. But I honestly believe if we dilute the benefits, we're going to weaken our ability to serve the public because we will lose staff. And when we lose staff, it's just going to be an avalanche. We're going to lose staff. We're going to lose quality staff. It'll be a brain drain, and it'll take a long time to rebuild that. So that's why I think we should stay with this. It's a good plan.
Supervisor Hard.
The excellent service and excellent response that county residents receive from county staff and departments is because we have exceptional staff and because we are able to retain our staff due to a more than living wage, a competitive wage, and an excellent benefit package. So again, we come to a question of, is it the chicken or the egg? But in this case, it is the staff that comes first. Without the exemplary staff and service that they provide, we don't have to worry about the services because they're not going to exist in the same manner as they do today. So I strongly urge you to approve the budgetary process as cited.
Supervisor Burning.
I agree with everyone in this capacity. Everyone has very good points, Mr. Chair. But we're still coming out of what's the remnants of 2020, and there are still neighbors of mine who aren't where they were a year and a half ago. A lot of them have taken 401k cuts, matches. Health insurance has changed for some of my neighbors. Even some of the businesses within our community, some are doing great and some are really not doing great. So to say it's that we should just be looking at that because they expect services might be a little disingenuous in the fact that we need to, I think we should see something inserted in here as a priority for our residents, because it's a balancing act between delivering the services that we are required to, not only statutorily, but that our citizens and our residents want, but then also making sure that there's an environment for them to succeed and that we're not prioritizing this body, which is to serve the people, over the people of which we're supposed to serve. So I would like to see something in here that brings the residents of this county into the perspective of budget prioritization. So, and yes, I also agree that our staff need to be taken care of so that we can retain them for the areas that we definitely need to continue to charge forward on. So that's my 2 cents, whatever that's worth today, and 6 weeks from now could be worth like a half penny or something. But anyway.
Further discussion? Or Tomczyk?
I agree with Supervisor Burning and Supervisor Long that the citizens are of the utmost importance. However, working in multiple careers where turnover is quite large in some areas, I do know that we can't serve the community and can't serve the citizens or the people you're supposed to be serving unless we can retain people. And one of the good things about St. Croix County is the good benefits. And so I think that we need to remember back to last week when we were all talking about how staff was like the number one important thing in both groups. So that's my thoughts on the matter.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The conversation that we're having right now at Administration Committee, one of the questions when we were discussing priorities, one of the things that I did mention was the question, are we serving our citizens? That should be our most important question. But I do believe that the current matrix that we have in front of us answers that question. We need our staff. We need to retain staff. We need good staff to serve our citizens. And I want to point out as well, in the resolution, it does suggest, right before the list of the four, it does suggest that the county administrator should consider these when putting together the 2022 budget. I like the idea that we've had the committee of the whole conversation ahead of time for the budget. We've had discussions at administration committee, but ultimately, as a board, we've also hired an administrator, and we have department heads and staff who can work through the details of this. Where is the balance? Where is the trade-offs between these four? And I would expect that that conversation is going to happen, even though we've provided guidance as a board, because that's what we hire Ken to do. So.
Thank you. Further, I guess I'm not seeing any further discussion, so I guess we're ready to vote on the motion at this time. Motion carries. Thank you.
And
Okay,
thank
next
you,
time.
everyone. Just thank you, everyone, for the input, and I think it was Supervisor Cook that did just say that this is input, and this is the basis for where we start from, but there are changes between now and November when you see the final version. So all of that will be taken into consideration, so thank you.
Okay, next then is the annual department reports and information technology. We've just seen them in action. Continue, please.
Well, it's great to see everybody back in the same room. It's been a challenging year. You guys all adapted to the remote piece of things, and it worked out fairly well for us. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing more faces in the room when we have these meetings, and tonight's a great start to that. 2020 was a little bit of a challenge for everybody. Technology-wise, we were, from what I've understood, is that we were better prepared than other counties in our region. Doesn't mean we were ready to go with everything, but we just had to increase some licensing and maybe purchase a few portable devices for our workers to keep them working, but it worked out well. We reacted and responded to all requests in a timely manner, and I have my crew to thank for that. They did a heck of a job, and none of them wanted to be here tonight because they don't like working after hours, but that's something else. Yeah, we're glad we're getting through this, and we've learned a lot along the way, and look forward to many more years of modernization in the IT department with your support. So my report is pretty boilerplate. Security seems to be the biggest thing these days. We're getting hit more and more with phishing campaigns and attacks on our infrastructure. We try to keep ahead of that with firewall upgrades, software platform upgrades. You guys are a victim of that too. You see us getting updates to your systems periodically, especially when you come in the building and they download the big updates and you have to wait to log in. But it's all part of security, so please be patient with that. As we move forward into 2021 and 2022, we've moved a position from the finance department into the IT department, which is a good chunk of why my budget increased by a little bit over $100,000. It was the ERP analyst that was originally positioned in the finance department. That's been brought into IT because we've realized that it's more of a technical function, working with technical vendors versus doing finance or HR work. They do need to have a good working knowledge of those systems, but it's more of an IT function. And we're space needs are getting addressed. We're taking over a conference room to make room for this person. At that point, we're probably going to be pretty full over there. So the space needs study really is coming in timely now. And I think there's some additional room coming for IT in there if that gets approved by the board. So again, I thank you for your support. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Supervisor Burning.
How are we preparing for a more remote work environment moving forward?
Well, we're prepared. We have remote access through a couple different ways. We use Citrix for a lot of workers. That was our standard remote entry. We've moved a few systems to the cloud, like the Oracle system. We've moved fully to Office 365, which is all cloud-based. Our intranet is cloud-based in the SharePoint platform right now. We're communicating with Microsoft Teams, which you guys are all licensed for. I don't know how much you all use that to communicate amongst the staff and each other, but we also have some tools for allowing VPN access for people that need access through VPN. Our remote workers are, before COVID, we were probably 35-40% remote worker already, so we were prepared for it. And again, we just had to gear up a little bit on licensing to absorb the initial shock of everybody working from home. But as more and more systems move to the cloud, it makes it more conducive for our staff to work remotely.
So follow up to that, we're staring down the barrel of like a $100 million potential add-on to the building.
Yep.
And the way I look at it, technology, one, could have saved us last year. We chose not to do that as a society as a whole. But we now have an opportunity to look back at that error and not making a mistake for our county. I guess what the crux of my question is, in lieu of a $100 million building add-on, is your infrastructure going to be ready if we need to add staff going down the road and we don't approve a $100 million building project? Because in my opinion, that would be, I mean, your guys' operations, yeah, yours will ramp up a little bit, but licensing and all that, are you guys able to, if we had to do that, forego that project and go more remote? Is your current level of staffing where it's going to be? And if it's not, would you be able to put something together that could show us, based on that build-out project and the staff needs, how you could build out your staff to handle that, so that we're not spending $100 million, we're getting licenses for people to be able to work from home, et
Well,
cetera?
absolutely.
Does my question make sense?
It does make
Okay.
sense, yep. But the first thought that comes to my mind is that the space that we're addressing, the space needs we're addressing right now, are the people that primarily serve our public. So there's really not a way to send somebody over to Beth's house to get a marriage license, or Cindy's house, or to Baldwin or wherever to get a marriage license. It's just, you can't do that. So the sheriff's office, the courts, those are all in-person type services. So I guess for for phase 3 or phase 4, which I believe is possibly a service center addition that was in there somewhere, yeah, we can look at staffing or equipment or licensing to address those remote work needs. But for the people that are working in this building that will be impacted by the $100 million project, those people address the public. I mean, they're here, they're public facing, so it's hard to picture them working from home. At least the majority of them.
Further questions? Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thanks, John. You're welcome.
Lost my place. Next item then will be the Facilities Department annual report. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening. What a year last year was. Nobody could ever have planned that, right? We did well. We survived. Buildings, the employees that I have working in my department have done an excellent job, and they love what they do. I'm privileged to have been here 8 years, and I was surprised as we were doing the tour of the building with the building committee. I've touched every department and pushed it out as far as it could possibly go and helped get this building to the year we're in. So that was kind of weird for me because I don't really sit and look at the grand picture. I'm usually, kind of getting things done. So that was kind of cool. And thank you to committee members for taking the tour. I think that that's one of the things that makes you guys better, is when you go through and you see what we do and see how we work. That helps us share our thoughts with you and our struggles, and then you can see firsthand what we deal with. So the report is pretty much intact. If I have any questions or you have any questions, please shout out or stop by.
Questions?
All
Supervisor
up,
Toljan.
100 million.
Yeah, I've never seen in any of the facilities per se because of COVID. Is there going to be a tour sometime soon?
Well, I'm always up for a one-on-one.
Well, is that efficient?
That would be fine with me. Just give me a shout, and I'd be more than happy to take you through. If you want to have a group of you, we can do a tour. I know Ken really likes tagging along with me on those. So,
Questions or comments, others? Seeing none,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'll throw one in.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yeah, I had a chance to tour the health center for the first time in a long, long time because my dog works there the other day. And I met the new facilities guy there. It was his first day of working. So what was it, 2 weeks ago? What a heck of a nice guy. And had a chance to chat with him, and he was doing the lawn. And the place just looks fantastic.
yeah, he's a special character. He's had a lot of experience with grounds and maintenance like that. And he's a seasonal. He's 16, 24 hours a week. He's got his own little side business too. But yeah, thank you. He's doing good work, and I can't thank you enough, Paulette, for all the help you've given us on the nursing home and the plants and whatnot. So we're gaining ground. But thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Jim. Next would be request for future agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the clerk's report. Cindy?
I don't have any correspondence, but I just want to remind you that the Wisconsin Counties Association Annual Conference is in September. It's in La Crosse. I sent out some information on that, and if you're interested in going, just let me know. First term supervisors registration is free, so it's not till September. I'd like to get everybody registered by August if you're interested in going. So, thank you.
Okay, next one would be announcements. Ken? No announcements. And